Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have an early impression on a discontinued and hard to find fragrance. And it's a car brand fragrance, believe it or not. Many car brand fragrances kind of get shit on in Fragcom if you listen to the real frag heads. If you listen to the channels that hype fragrances for, for likes and for views and for clicks or whatever it is, the YouTube algorithm loves them. Like, for example, that Mercedes-Benz fragrance that everyone is, hyping on the designer-like channels. Those kind of fragrances get a lot of hype in some circles and a lot of hate in the others. And there is a car brand that I own a couple bottles of. It's Bentley. But this is a brand that very few people talk about. Mostly because most of the new stuff that they put out is shite. This one is not shite, though. This is very good juice. And we'll talk about my feelings on it. I've been wearing it all day today. This is a Bugatti fragrance, and it's actually all the way from 1992, Ettore Bugatti. And this is, before we get into it, actually, I'm going to stop myself before we start really talking about it, because we're going to do a quick unboxing first. So before we get into what the Bugatti fragrance is, and, and how I feel about it, whether I want to buy a bottle, I want to do this unboxing. This is from a friend of the channel, a very good friend of the channel. Rachel sent me this little care package, and I'm very excited to dip into this because there's some amazing stuff in here from what she's told me. So I want to show you guys what she sent me, and then we'll just give my thoughts on the Bugatti fragrance, and I hope you guys are excited to hear about it because I like doing those kind of videos where there are fragrances that no one's talking about. You know what I mean? Nobody on YouTube is doing these type of videos because it's discontinued. It's a little bit hard to find. They're not going to get free bottles from the brand of Bugatti, and they deserve to they deserve to be discussed. These type of fragrances are the kind of things that I like talking about. So I'm just going to rip into this like a barbarian. Sorry, Rachel. Okay. Out she comes. Here we go. All right. Let's see what's in this beast. So first of all, we have multiple little packages, which is always exciting. Thank you, Rachel, by the way. You've sent me so many amazing things. That last Chanel 31 Rue Cambon purchase was thanks to you, because of that sample that you sent me. And there's still so many samples you sent me I want to talk about on the channel. Like, for example, I'm sitting on this one right here because I'm spraying it a couple times before bed. Iris Silver Mist, and just getting to know it more. My God, what an Irish fragrance this is. This kind of stuff has been invaluable for me as a learning lesson. So thank you. I couldn't be the professor without some of the stuff you guys have sent me. So thank you very much. So first, we've got a new brand on the channel, a brand that has been getting a lot of traction all of a sudden in the fragrance world, and it's Darren Allen Perfumes. Are you guys familiar with this house? Apparently, he's an indie house. You can put him up there with, someone like a Russian Adam, a Bortnikov, a Meleg. He's kind of in that, circle, if you will, but the difference is that Darren Allen took a long time of his training and, learning about the perfume world by studying the past. So he is very familiar with the vintage fragrances that we know and love, and that's kind of something that he bases his creation off of. So we have Fêtes de Noël. Fêtes de Noël. Let me pull some of these up so I can kind of see the notes. We have Fêtes de Noël, Cupid's Bow, Bathory, and Sweet Repose. Darren Allen. Whoops, I guess I spelled it wrong. One L. Darren Allen. There we go. Fêtes de Noël. This is the new one from 2022. Bergamot, Orange, Clove, Sweet Gale. Not familiar with that note at all. Tuberose Absolute. Ooh, scary note. Mayrose Absolute. Jasmine Grandiflorum Absolute. Ylang Ylang. Labdanum Absolute. Mousse de Saxe. Musk, Civet, White Ambergris, and I know he uses amazing ingredients, so I heard that's not even a question. Ambergris, the Orris, the Animalics, they all smell top-notch. Sandalwood, patchouli, frankincense, vanilla, and orris butter. So that's very exciting. I can't wait to dive into this brand. Cupid's Bow. Let's see what Cupid's Bow is all about. Cupid's Bow, unknown release year. Bergamot, champagne, berries, rose, chocolate, vanilla, chocolate, patchouli, woods, and white musk. Wow. I bet you this one is patchouli heavy if it's got that chocolate accord. Very interesting. And champagne note. You don't see many champagne accords, so that's, I'm going to really enjoy trying that one. The label on the front, all of his labels are black. This one's actually pink, and it's got a, you know, a little Cupid on the front with his wings and bow and arrow, getting ready to shoot someone for love. Bathory. Let me check Bathory. Bathory, unknown release date. Bulgarian Rose Otto, Saffron, Blackcurrant Bud, Absolute, Honey, Hungarian Bell Pepper. I don't know how I feel about bell pepper in my perfume, but I'm open. Nutmeg, Beeswax Absolute, Dragon's Blood, Leather, Deer Musk, and I hear it's real deer musk, Civet, and Frankincense Absolute. This sounds like my favorite so far. Bathory, that is getting bookmarked for sure. And finally, we have Sweet Repose. Sweet Repose came out, they don't know when. Lavender Absolute, Violet, Opium Poppy, hey, Lily, Iris, Orris Butter, Vanilla, Tonka Bean, Fossilized Amber, Myrrh Absolute, Frankincense Absolute, and Cedarwood. That also sounds right up my alley. Depending on how he implemented that Iris Orris Butter accord in the mid, that's gonna be beautiful, I bet. And I hear that it's got this vintage twist to it, so I can't wait. I can't wait to dive into these. Thank you, Rachel. That is very kind. Discovering a new house on Channel Ram. Where are you going to live? You can live right here for now. You can just live right there with your brethren. All right, let's see what else we've got here. I do have a hard cutoff at an hour on this video, so I can't screw around too much. Ooh, what is this? I know, that's a beautiful logo. What is this? Is that the Coty logo? I hope you don't mind me doing this unboxing live on the channel, Rachel. I know you sent me something that's really amazing. I hope I'm not... Oh, I don't want to tear this logo. It's so beautiful. All right, I think we did it without tearing. I want to save that. Here it is, yes, Spoturno 1921. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So there's the little card that's inside of it. Let me show you the packaging. And this is a very rare little piece. It's a 6mm extrait of the new. So basically, if you guys haven't heard, and I'm really hoping to have her on the channel, but you can see right there her name, Veronica. I hope that's how you pronounce that. Veronica Coty, who is a descendant of the great Francois Coty, is reinvigorating the Coty name into this brand that's being launched this year, 2023. And I would love to have her on the channel just to talk about her history and, you know, what it feels like to reinvigorate a brand of such prestige and mystique. And, you know, many people consider Francois Coty basically like the most influential, or one of the most influential. How do you put the most influential on an industry as large as perfume? But one of the most influential brand owners, perfumers, creators, you know, the way that he influenced the fragrance world with his Le Chip, is, you know, unrivaled. And he became, I think, one of the 5 richest men in the world in the 1940s or something like that. He had a huge empire, and you would think, who could do that off of perfume, and he did. And so she is out to recreate this brand. She is out to kind of restore the name of Coty, because now, you know, we kind of see Coty as like a brand that does, you know, reformulations and stuff like that. And I mean, just think about it, just without even, you know, putting too much thought into it. Think about this. When is the last time that you have seen a fragrance that came out under Coty? Not just distributed, but I mean, under Coty. When's the last time you've seen a Coty marketed fragrance that you've been excited about? What was it? I mean, I know the ones that I want to smell, Emerald and stuff like that, which I think she said there's a sample in here. But the fragrances from the past are the ones I want to really smell and get into. So now to have something that I'm excited about for the future of the brand is absolutely stunning. So I cannot wait to dive into this. I mean, what a blessing it is to get to smell this. So thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you for, you know, kind of connecting Veronica and me, and I would love to have her on one day. It would be a serious blessing, serious honor, right up there with my chats with Liz Moores and Russian Adam. And so, Spoturno, 1921. Let me look up the notes, because I'm interested in how this is supposed to play out. Spoturno. Whoops, did I spell it wrong? S-P-O-R-T-U. R-N-O. No, I didn't spell it wrong. Maybe it's not in the... Maybe it's not in the databases yet. Veronica Coty. Okay, interesting. I am going to try to get some more information on this, and we'll do a video on it at some point. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to live, Spoturno? Here, we'll move some pieces over. You can live right here for now. Running out of room for these places to live. Okay, let's see. This is... Oh, that's very kind of you. This is a discovery atomizer of Darren Allen's Chypre number 1. Let's go back to Darren Allen here. You must know Chypres are my favorite. Oh, that smells glorious from the atomizer. That smells absolutely glorious from the atomizer. Chypre number 1. Bergamot, Amalfi Lemon, Orange Blossom Absolute, May Rose Absolute, Jasmine Grandiflorum Absolute, Carnation Absolute, Ylang Ylang, Spices, Herbs, Labdanum Absolute, Oak Moss, Deer Musk, Civet, White Ambergris, Sandalwood, Patchouli, Frankincense, Vanilla, and Orris Butter. Wow. Amazing. I can't wait to smell this. This is my kind of fragrance through and through. Smell it. It looks like a vintage Chypre. The base notes that I'm smelling from the atomizer smell like you're smelling a vintage Chypre. Can't wait. Oh, there's a little bit right here that kind of, I don't know if it just is still there, or if it's leaking. But there's a little bit right here. Maybe that's why I can smell it so well. I'm going to make sure I stand this upright so as I don't lose any of this glorious juice. But, yes, you are going to stand upright. Where are you going to stand is the question. Where am I going to put you? You can go right here for now. You stay right there with your Amouage brethren. Okay, so that is the unboxing. Thank you, Rachel. That's some amazing stuff. Absolutely stunning stuff. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Very, 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 very kind of you. I don't even know what I'm most excited about. Probably just, you know, the gloriousness of Veronica Coty reinvigorating the brand for a perfume lover. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say who the perfumer is yet, but I'm not going to say it because I don't want to make a mistake and say something I'm not supposed to yet. But let's just say if I told you guys, I don't know if she made it official yet on, you know, her announcement. I know she announced the brand on Instagram or whatever, but I don't know if she's announced who the actual perfumer is. But if once you guys hear it, who it is, let me tell you this: you're going to, as a perfume lover, you're gonna jump out of your seat. You're gonna really want to smell these. I mean, I almost like screamed like a little schoolgirl when she told me who it was. I was like, what? So very excited about Veronica Coty's new brand. That's probably one of the biggest fragrance news of 2023. Okay, so let's talk about this vintage fragrance because, you know, I told you guys the other day when I was talking about doing an unboxing, which, by the way, I unboxed this, which is Jean-Marc Sinan Version Original. And this is a 50 ml. I wish it was 100 ml. It looks like 100 ml, but it's not. The vintage has this gold outline. And I probably shouldn't be telling you guys this because I actually do want to buy a backup of this. I almost bought a backup yesterday because I knew I can't withhold information. I'm not very good at doing anything other than just being honest with you guys, even if it's to my detriment. Oh my God. I wore this to bed last night. Holy shit. Where have you been all of my life? Like, that's the thing about vintage fragrances is there's so much that even a vintage connoisseur, so if you go watch Rich Mitch's, for example, channel, he did an unboxing today of 2 stunning vintage fragrances that I own in my collection. One is Giorgio for Men VIP Special Reserve. And I wore that fragrance as my scent of the day on New Year's Eve. That was my New Year's Eve scent of the day. It's amazing. Go watch his early impression of it. I talked a little bit about it on my New Year's Eve video or live stream. And he also unboxed Ma Liberté, the EDT, which is a Jean Patou. And many people compare it to Jean Patou Pour Homme Privé, not Patou Pour Homme, but Patou Pour Homme Privé. And that's a fragrance I want to add to the collection, but I have Ma Liberté, and there really are very close similarities. The lavender sandalwood combination is probably one of the, he mentioned it in the video, probably one of the most beautiful lavenders ever with that clove and spiciness and stuff like that. It's amazing. And you know, me and Rich Mitch have been collecting vintage fragrances. We've been talking about it together for years. And so here we are still discovering new stuff. And I just bring this out as an example, not because I'm highlighting this, because even me yesterday, I wore this to bed for the first time and I was like, shit, you know, where has this been? So that's the thing about vintage fragrances is there is more than enough to go around. Even though it feels like it's exclusive, even though it feels like they're hard to come by or they're expensive or whatever it is, there's just so much out there. You can go find something that isn't hyped for 30 or 40 bucks and you'll very well be surprised at the quality. And I found so many gems just going, forget the YouTube, forget what I say, forget the vintage fragrance, you know, connoisseurs who go out there and hype up Iquitos and the price goes to 600 bucks. Forget all that. Just go buy, you know, a vintage fragrance out of the blue that you don't know, that seems like the notes fit, and get it if you find it for a great deal, and you will be impressed at how many gems you find going that way. That's what I've done. I just kind of went against the grain and bought stuff that wasn't talked about at the time and got to know it, and I've been very impressed. So this is one such fragrance, and this earns a special thank you shout out to Keith from Manly Scents. And actually, if you go look this up on Parfumo, Ettore Bugatti 1992 with the blue box, that's the vintage one. You want the one with the blue box. That's where this sample came from. His review is first. His review is very first on whenever you scroll down to reviews. Only 2 on Parfumo. His is the first one you'll come across, and his title is The Most Masculine Citrus Vanilla. And I had a feeling before I ever smelled this that by looking at his review, I had a feeling this was going to smell like a Guerlain, because he said if you slapped a Guerlain label on it, you'd be fooled. And when I looked at the notes, I was like, you know what? I bet you this is going to be a fragrance that smells like a Guerlain, and I knew which one. I immediately knew which one it was going to be by looking at the notes, and I was right. I was more than right. This is actually, if you don't let it dry down, if you just kind of smell and judge, if you spray and smell and judge, you'll go, this is a clone. And can you guess which clone of Guerlain it is? It came out in 1992. So another famous Guerlain came out right around this time, but this is a clone of an older Guerlain, a much older Guerlain, decades before the Guerlain that came out in 1992 that yet you're thinking of. This is a clone of Habkt Rouge, the Eau de Toilette, one of my favorite masculine fragrances of all time. In fact, it was so obvious of a comparison when I sprayed this, that I had to take this out and spray this on a blotter. So I've got the dry down of Habkt Rouge. Whoops, upside down. But I've got the dry down of Habkt Rouge right here, and it is a very stunning similarity, but there's differences. Okay, so the cat's out of the bag. To me, there's no. Actually, I went to Fragrantica and looked at Ettore Bugatti from 1992. And I was shocked this was not recommended, so I actually added it as a fragrance that smells like this because this is the first thing that popped into my mind. Nothing else even came close. Some people on Fragrantica wrote stuff like, it smells like, what did they say? Salvador by Salvador Dali? No. They wrote Bois de Portugal? No. They wrote Tiffany for Men. They're getting closer, but no. Jicky, that is probably the closest possibility, and it's because of that Guerlain. Jicky has the Guerlain, Habkt Rouge has the Guerlain, but Habkt Rouge has ingredients in it that this fragrance has that just make the comparison almost one for one for the first half an hour or 45 minutes. And those comparisons are basically, it has this rosewood, it has this combination of citruses that gives off that lemony Habkt Rouge vibe. So if you know Habkt Rouge, it has that lemony bergamot with rosewood. That's kind of the main notes in the opening to me, and it's very powdery, and it stays powdery into the dry down. Oh God, I love Habkt Rouge, man. It is, to me, this is a masterpiece. This is a masterpiece fragrance. Even in this version, this lasts 12 hours on my skin. This version, forget the vintage where the leather is more prominent and the moss is more prominent and all that. This version is a masterpiece to me. Just like, and the old one is definitely a masterpiece, but this stuff lasts forever. But there are some differences. So here's the thing. When you first spray Ettore Bugatti 1992 for the very first time, you're going to notice a trio of citruses, 3. You're going to get, and it's beautiful. It is. It's a beautiful opening. You can't get away from it. And the reason I wore it today is because it's January the 6th, 2023, and it's going to be 70 degrees here in Texas today. So this is a perfect fragrance for that kind of weather. Doesn't seem like it would be 70 degrees in January, but this is Texas, so that's what you get. It's going to be in the 60s and 70s. This is perfect for that kind of weather for me. And so I've been waiting to wear this, by the way. I've been waiting for the and I picked the perfect day to wear this. So what do you get when you first spray? By the way, this is a 6-hour dry down. And this is a 2.5-hour dry down. So I was able to re-experience the opening again. So when you first spray, it opens up with bergamot, grapefruit, and mandarin orange, okay? Those are the trio of citruses. And you will get this slight aldehydic, not a lot of aldehydes, though. It's not like aldehydes hit my nose and, oh, you're just smelling this vintage Bernard Chant aldehyde. No, it is very slight, very reserve's not a good word, but aldehydes add a little bit of depth to the citruses when you first spray. There is also a note of neroli, okay? So neroli keeps the fragrance smelling very fresh in the opening, and citrusy and fresh in the opening. It mixes with the citruses beautifully. And what ends up happening is you start to get slight differences. So the first half hour, you're just going, shit, this is a Habkt Rouge clone. I mean, Maybe the guy who owned Bugatti wore Abbey Rouge as his scent. Maybe that was his signature scent, because this is the first Bugatti masculine in 1992. And so maybe this is like a homage, you know, a bow to the fragrance of his days, of his youth. And, you know, if the guy that owned Bugatti was an older gentleman in 1992, it's very likely that he did wear Abbey Rouge in, you know, in between 1965 and 1992. So this very well may be kind of like an homage to the fragrance of his youth, if you will. And so I sprayed Abbey Rouge on here. And the differences begin to appear, and I don't want this to be a pure comparison video, but it's impossible to talk about this without talking about this to me. It's impossible. If you know anything about the history of fragrance and how important Abbey Rouge was, you can't smell this without thinking about this. The only way you smell this without thinking about this is if you don't know this. That's just it. That's it. There's no other way to say it. And so the differences appear probably at about the half-hour mark. The half-hour to an hour is where you will start to notice that the fragrances begin to kind of diverge. They go in different directions. Now, they end up coming back together later in the dry down because of a series of notes in the base that we'll talk about. But what ends up happening is within the first hour, you'll notice that the fragrances begin to maybe split apart a little bit. They start to go their own way. All right. And what ends up happening is Abbey Rouge basically turns into this powdery, lemony, huge carnation for me. And Abbey Rouge stays very powdery long into the dry down. You get the beautiful rosewood. And the rosewood is very, very prominent in really both of them, but even more so Abbey Rouge. And when I think of these rosewood heavy fragrances, I can now think of Abbey Rouge, Ettore Bugatti, and, you know, something like even Tom Ford's Oud Wood is a huge rosewood fragrance to me with cardamom. Not so much oud, it's more rosewood and cardamom, which I like it. But it's not really an oud fragrance, if that makes sense. But when I think of rosewood, these are the scents that now come to mind, now that I've had a chance to really experience Ettore Bugatti. So you do get this rosewood. It reminds me of my mother's rosary that she had when I was a kid. She had a rosewood that was straight from the Holy Land. That was probably very expensive. And what ends up happening, once you start to hit the mid, 45 minutes, an hour in, you start to notice that Ettore Bugatti begins to bring in these 80s masculine notes. So you start to get notes that are missing from Abbey Rouge. It's very prominent. And when you're smelling kind of side by side, you notice that Ettore Bugatti takes a turn. Bad pun, but it does. It takes a turn, okay? And what ends up coming out is mugwort, clove, lavender, geranium, nutmeg, coriander, hyssop, all notes that are missing from Abbey Rouge. And that mid note breakdown is where Ettore Bugatti kind of takes a turn. And even though it came out in 1992, that mid kind of feels like you're smelling an 80s fragrance, like a late 80s fragrance, you know, like a late 80s masculine. So that's where the whole clone concept kind of falls apart. So I think this was, as you wear this, you'll notice that this was inspired by Abbey Rouge. I think Ettore Bugatti is inspired by Abbey Rouge. But it also has the ability to stand on its own 2 feet, okay? It does something a little bit different. Now, if you're just going to kind of be you're not really a fragrance lover or connoisseur, you're just someone that kind of likes to smell nice, and you have 1 bottle of a year, and you smell these 2, you're going to say, they're just, so what? Own one, own the other, who cares? But there are differences to the people that are willing to kind of really look and pay attention. And what happens is that mid separates them. And I'm getting it right now. You start to, you know, you still get some of that lemony, powdery, citrusy top that Abbey Rouge is so famous for, okay? That top is still there. And it remains. It doesn't remain as linear as Abbey Rouge does. Abbey Rouge, when you smell these two, feel a little bit more linear because this one kind of takes that right turn going into more of the 80s fragrances, which Abbey Rouge is missing. But Abbey Rouge is not a linear fragrance. That's the thing. It just feels a little bit more linear when you compare this because Abbey Rouge feels like it's got that, you know, carnation, that the lemony bergamot, with that rosewood, and then it kind of dries down into that Guerlain with the leather in the base, right? And this one, what ends up happening is once the hours tick by, and once that 1 hour to 3 hour part of the fragrance kind of dries, and you start to go deeper into the dry down, hour 4, hour 5, and this is a very strong lasting fragrance. 6 hours in, I can smell this like, you know, like no problem at all. This is clear and bright and beautiful. You might look at this and say slightly Italian cologne style, but Abbey Rouge is the, you know, Abbey Rouge is the blueprint for this, no doubt about it. And so once we get back into the base, you're going to notice more notes in common again. Just like in the top, there were notes in common. So the top had that palisander rosewood, beautiful note. I love the note of rosewood. If I ever created a fragrance, I would want something like that in my fragrance. And you've got the lemon right in the top, and you have the as far as Abbey Rouge goes, you've got that bergamot, right? And it kind of feels like there's similarities to the way that they open. And once you get to the mid, it takes a different turn, but it comes back. They begin to kind of converge again. They meet on the same road, okay? And the road that they meet on is this vanilla, benzoin, dry down, but with that leather note. Actually, one of the notes in here, one of the sites, one of the fragrance sites like Parfumo, for example, actually lists Russian leather. And I'll tell you why I think they list Russian leather in the dry down. Because Russian leather has this, you know, leather birch combination, which makes it very smoky. This doesn't have birch. I don't think it has birch. But what it has is, it has labdanum in the dry down. And the labdanum turns the fragrance slightly smokier, okay? So the fragrances start close, converge, and come back together. But even when they come back together, you know, they start like this, neck and neck. But when they come back together, they come back together like this. There's differences in the dry down that are much bigger than when they begin, if that makes sense. They start right next to each other, and even though they come back together, they stay further apart. The dry down is where you can even pick out more differences, because Ettore Bugatti has that smoky labdanum that's missing from Abbey Rouge. Abbey Rouge has that Guerlain, you know, it has that Guerlain-like dry down that you've smelled if you love Guerlains. If you have smelled Shalimar, you'll find remnants of Shalimar in Abbey Rouge with that vanilla, which was very risque for a masculine at that time. This has the vanilla. And it's very well done. I mean, Manly Sense, who wrote on his review that if you slapped a Guerlain label on the bottle, you'd be fooled. Spot on, 100%. I think if you actually put this under someone's nose who hasn't smelled Abbey Rouge for a long time, if you put this in an Abbey Rouge bottle, and maybe it's been like a year since someone smelled Abbey Rouge and they kind of forgot exactly how it smells, they wouldn't second guess this at all. This has the quality of an old Guerlain. It has the complexity, the notes, the feel. It has that feel of Abbey Rouge. And yet, there are the differences. Geranium really stands out to my nose. That may be one of the most, the notes with the biggest outlier is the geranium. It still has that powdery orris root that gives it that powdery feel of Abbey Rouge. And what ends up happening is, so you get this, one of the notes that is not listed, I should mention, before we go any further, in Ettore Bugatti is carnation. There's no carnation note listed on Parfumo, which is what I use. There's mugwort, geranium, clove, jasmine, coriander, lavender, nutmeg, rose, hyssop, and cinnamon in the heart. No carnation. But to me, and I don't know if it's a combination of just the DNA overall that feels like Abbey Rouge, or I don't know, you know, if I think maybe that when I smell this, I am just so accustomed to that carnation that's in Abbey Rouge. I just, you know, I just associate it with this smell that maybe I think I'm smelling carnation in here and it's not here, but I think there's a carnation note in Ettore Bugatti from 1992, and it feels that way. It feels like there is that carnation note in the mid because of how close it, you know, impersonates that Abbey Rouge dry down. I don't know if they could do it without the carnation. I'd be shocked if they could do it without the carnation. That's just my personal opinion. But if you look on some of the other databases, there is a carnation note listed. There's a carnation note listed in base notes and Fragrantica. So maybe Parfumo's wrong. I don't know. Usually I trust Parfumo more than Fragrantica, but that's just me. And the last couple things that I want to talk about is this slight animalic side of things. And I say very slight. Don't let that castoreum note in the dry down fool you. It is extremely well tamed. This is a respectable gentleman's fragrance. This is not someone that's going to offend. This is, you know, posh, respectable, upper class, you know, pocket square, that kind of fragrance to me. And so the castoreum couldn't be amped up. If I made this fragrance, I would amp the castoreum way up. But here, what they did is and when you smell them side by side, you'll notice that there is a little bit of that smoky and very slight, okay? So when I say smoky, don't think Interlude Man or anything like that. This is very slight because of the labdanum, slight smokiness, slight animalic, very, very slight, almost indistinguishable, but it's there, okay? It just adds a little bit more, you know, a little bit more of that masculine touch. This is 1992, right? This is 1965, okay? In 1965, most men didn't wear perfume, right? Most men didn't wear perfume. Proper men didn't wear perfume. It was just kind of one of those things. You might splash on an aftershave. Men didn't spray stuff back then. They splashed it on, right? And so you have to remember that times had changed from 1965 until 1992. And so this is adding just maybe a little bit more of that, but it doesn't want to go away from the classy, posh side of Abbey Rouge. So it's kind of using this as a blueprint, and it's weaving in and out of the traffic cones. That's what Bugatti's doing with Abbey Rouge. Using it as kind of that center line, and it's weaving in and out, right? Sometimes it feels like it's right there on the center with that opening, with the bergamot and the lemon and the rosewood and all that stuff, and it just feels like, wow, this is an Abbey Rouge clone. And then it kind of weaves this way, and you start thinking, okay, now it's going more in an 80s direction with the mugwort and, you know, geranium, and then it kind of weaves back with the vanilla and the leather. Now, there is an olibanum note in Ettore Bugatti, which maybe adds to that smokiness, but to me, to my nose, if I was guessing, I would guess that the smokiness is coming from the labdanum more than the olibanum. It doesn't smell like that olibanum churchy, incensey. It smells more like the leatheriness that you smell in the olibanum in Sahara Noir or something like that, but very toned down, extremely elegant. It's a great discontinued fragrance that I'm glad I got to experience. If you know Ettore Bugatti from 1992, the vintage with the blue box, and you have thoughts on it that differ from mine, do please let me know. I don't want anyone to feel like they can't go against what I say, because I'm no authority. I'm just some guy who likes perfume. That's it, okay? Just some guy. So, if you feel differently, everyone has their own truths, especially with this. My nose is different than yours. You'll never smell what I smell. I'll never smell what you smell. But putting these fragrances out, putting these fragrance videos out, hopefully gives people an idea of the scent. They can go in, you know, if you're a blind buyer like I am, because I'm in the middle of nowhere, Texas. I'd have to drive all the way to Dallas for, you know, an hour to get to a mall that would carry, you know, fragrances where I can sniff and stuff like that, which sometimes I'll do, but very rarely. Normally I'm a blind buyer. And so more information like this about these perfumes helps. And there's very few videos on Ettore Bugatti 1992. This is one of those that almost no one talks about, but I really like it. Really, really like it. I think it would be a great addition to the collection from a collector's standpoint, because I like that kind of stuff. I like having rare and hard to find, and you know, that's just my thing. It's a thing that Rich Mitch and I share. We both enjoy collecting some of the harder to collect stuff. But on the other hand, I have to be pragmatic and say the juice is the most important thing. To me, it is. The juice is the most important thing. Bottles are cool. You know, hard to find is cool, but it's the juice. It's the juice that I really care about. Do I need a bottle of this when I have what I consider to be, you know, the granddaddy, the best? This is, I wear this with pride. I feel like I'm wearing something that's very special and elegant, and you know, it feels like I kind of know a secret, you know, that other modern men don't when I wear this. Like, if I wear this around friends my age in their 30s, I always feel like they're looking at me a little strange, you know, like, what are you doing? What exactly are you doing here? Because they can't figure it out, because they don't know the secret. They don't know the Abbey Rouge. And so the fact that I have this and a backup 200, or I think it's 100 ml splash. I have a backup 100 ml splash. Do I need this? Need is a tough word when you have 600 fragrances. Do I need it? No. Do I want it? Yes, I do. I think it'd be cool to have. But maybe just a little 50 ml bottle. I mean, I don't need the big boy 100 ml. I've seen some of these going for $250, $300. Don't pay that. If I could find a smaller, you know, size for $50, $40, $50, I'd go for it. I would. It's not a very big commitment, and if I use it, great. I can show it off on the channel, that kind of thing. But that's kind of my thoughts on Ettore Bugatti. Deserves to be talked about more in the community. I know these car brands kind of get shit on. I understand that, and I know that they're seen as cheapies, and but this is one. This is one that the vintage lovers, very few car brands capture the attention of the vintage lovers. This is one. Another one is the original Jaguar for Men. That's a fragrance I want to smell. I have not smelled that yet. I hear great things about it. I want to smell the vintage original, very first Jaguar for Men from the 80s that came out. And so that is on my to sniff list. So there are some car brands that I want to smell. But most of the time, most people overlook these brands. So that's why I wanted to kind of do the video. If you have experience with the Ettore Bugatti from 1992 in the blue box, do let me know. Thank you again, Keith, Manly Scents, for sending me this very, very kind decant to explore and talk about on the channel. I think he sent me this like 6 or 7 months ago. I mean, so when you send me stuff, if you're kind enough to send me anything, please be patient. I promise you, I have not forgot about you. I know there's people that have sent me stuff months ago and I haven't talked about it yet on the channel, but there are so many. I mean, these are all decants right here that I want to talk about. And so it's impossible to just do, I could do a new decant that I haven't talked about every single day on the channel, probably till the end of the year. Literally, I think I have that many decants that I could talk about if I really stretched it and talked about some of the ones that I don't really want to talk about right away, but are in the queue. So just be patient, please. If you send me something, please be patient. I have not forgot about you. Please don't feel offended. I promise you I will get to it soon. And to people that have sent me stuff like Rachel, thank you. This is very, very kind. You know, there's no way to repay that kind of kindness other than a big thank you. I know that's not enough, but it's all I can give you right now. But hopefully I'll do them justice, and I really hope to get to sit down with Véronique Coty one day. That would be a blessing. to get to sit down with, you know, the granddaughter or great-granddaughter, I don't know, I'm sorry if that's not correct, of the great Francois Coty, and just pick her brain and how she feels about the fragrance industry and how much pressure she feels to maybe revive her family name, you know, what that feels like. I'm sure that's a huge amount of pressure on a person who loves perfume. So yes, let me know what you guys think. If you have experience with this, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Love interacting with you guys. The comments are some of my favorite parts of doing these videos, the back and forth. So appreciate everybody watching. Cheers, guys, and have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.